let's get into question 3. This is a long one. Let me set the stage for you. So the People for Portland, a political advocacy group funded by majority white business interests, recently filed paperwork to put an initiative on the November ballot in 3 metro area counties requiring local government to direct existing tax dollars to fund emergency shelter beds and compel cities to enforce anti-camping laws. This ballot measure will redirect a bulk of the money from the Metro's 2020 homelessness service measure towards emergency shelter and force people living on the streets to move into shelters in place. This will likely traumatize and many community members whom shelters are poor, short-term solutions, exposing vulnerable community members to harm. This measure will allow Metro residents to also sue the government if they believe that the People for Portland measure is not being enforced. I'm gonna repeat that part. They can sue the government if they believe that the People for Portland measure is not being enforced. We at Imagine Black are actively against this ballot measure and believe that this ballot measure will increase excessive force and over-criminalization of the houseless community. So my question to you is, how would you prevent excessive force on the houseless community, and how will you respond if and when these or similar ballot measures that harm the houseless community are being considered? The second part to that is, what approaches would you take to provide holistic, so I'm thinking physical and mental health, well-being, and housing for our houseless neighbors?
This is such a critical conversation and a critical moment for us to come together as a community and move differently. First of all, I'd like to say we cannot have sweeps. When we're talking about supporting our houseless neighbors, and I really like to use the word neighbors because I feel like even going beyond just community member is somebody out there, but neighbor is somebody who's right here with me. We cannot have sweeps. Sweeps move individuals in a very traumatic, violent way from one neighborhood to the next neighborhood, and criminalizing somebody who is houseless is immoral, it's dangerous, it's inhumane, it's wrong, and it's not the values of our city. It's not a solution. Shelters are a temporary solution and also suspect and inhumane. It's actually really expensive to keep creating shelters and doing the things that we're doing in real time right now. The long-term solutions are, how are we investing in wraparound services for individuals? How are we investing in long-term housing solutions? That is what we need to be prioritizing. That's what we need to be centered around. That's what we need to be thinking about and talking about. We also need to make sure that we have people that are currently houseless and have been houseless at the table, helping make these decisions, help shift how we're moving, and help create policies that center and uplift communities, not tear them down, not arrest them, not harm them. That's not how you build community. And so when we're talking about one of the most vulnerable situations, which is being houseless, and houselessness is not a monolith. There are so many reasons why people fall into houselessness, and it looks different, right? Also, the solutions for houselessness have to be different. For an individual versus maybe a family of 5, their needs are going to be drastically different. And their plan to recovery around this, their plan to be rehabilitated and on a different track is going to look different. So we really have to center that. We need wraparound services when we're talking about these solutions. It has to be long-term solutions to help change this. Currently, over the last couple of years, we've invested hundreds of millions of dollars in temporary solutions, and the houseless, issue is growing. People are falling into houselessness for a variety of reasons. Wages are one of them. We need to be having thoughtful solutions for the right now, as well as going upstream and see why people are falling into this experience. We have to center the individuals, though. This can't be rich white people saying, hey, this is how we're going to deal with this issue, who've never experienced this, who don't understand it, who are not even trauma-informed or community-centered. Definitely, in in the ways that we move forward right now, we have to be looking at solutions that are already existing. Housing first is, the model that everyone deserves housing, and we're going to address that first, and then we're going to also support with wraparound services. And so that is the model that we need to be leading with, along with having those most vulnerable voices helping us shape how we move. So I am definitely wanting to be very holistic in the approach. I also know that we have the dollars in real time to be doing this. We could also, be looking at some of the solutions that are here. Like, we have so many empty units. Why is that not part of the current plan? There's like 8,000 units that are empty in the city. So I think there's a lot of ways that we can be shifting out of this, moving houseless folks from one neighborhood to the other, or criminalizing them for something that wasn't even their fault in the first place. Definitely a really critical way to move forward, and it's something that we have to center community in. We cannot be centering rich white developers. And if you're also really pressed about the budget, the long-term solutions are always where it's at. Short-term solutions like shelters is a waste of money. It creates a bigger problem, and it also, in addition to creating a bigger problem with just actual houselessness, it creates a bigger problem with distrust between the community and the government.